Uh, Cornell, any luck? Cornell, are you good? All right. Thanks, guys, for joining us for this Facebook Live leadership session. This is the first edition of our leadership sessions with Okwa Mombasa, which we'll be holding from time to time. And today we just want to talk about women in leadership. And as we continue to commemorate Women's Day and continue to have this conversation about women in positions of leadership, we realize that women continue to be underestimated. And we just want to have this conversation to try and discuss, are we ready for women to take up higher positions in government? Joining on the conversation, feel free to ask questions in the comments and just give your comments. So I'm going to start by introducing my guests. Today I have a woman who is an aspiring candidate, also among the panel. So that's interesting. We'll be able to get her view and her experience so far while vying. So I'm going to start with Gladys. Kindly introduce yourself. Gladys, you can. Okay, as Gladys prepares for that, I'm going to let Wilkista introduce herself and maybe give us just a brief background of what you do. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much, Frank. You've mentioned my name is Adu, and I work with an organization called Run for All. And also a bit about
Hello,
myself.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Gladys Kepkorir. I'm an aspiring candidate MCM Komani Ward in Nyali constituency. And currently, I was.
Okay, thanks, Gladys. Seems that we weren't getting you earlier, but I think I've gotten your aspiring MCM Komani Ward.
Okay, so now I'll be back. Are you getting me?
Yeah, I'm getting you now. Yeah.
Okay. I was working previously for Kenya Post Authority, but I have since to now focus on politics, and right now I'm faring on with the campaign. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Gladys. I'm going to hand it over to Kista now.
Thank you. My name is Will Kista, and I work with a movement called Run for Office. And Run for Office reduce the barriers for young people running political offices. So this was young women, young men, young people with disability, and all in generally young people in their diversity. Just about my background, I started off working in parties. I have worked in two political parties. I did for in 2017. I've experienced political parties during, and I remember right after completing high school, I worked as a clerk for I actually forgot. I think that spaces in space has been something that
Thank you very much. Well said. You are breaking off a little bit, but I think I got most of what you said. So I think we're just going to jump right into it. I'm going to start with Gladys. So you've mentioned that you're vying, and we'd just like to know why are you vying, and what was your thought process when you decided to go for this position and to run for office?
Okay, but first and foremost, initially I was CEO of Inua Maisha Mama Mashinani, and before deciding to join politics, I had seen the suffering of women, more especially those members whom I was leading as a CEO of Inua Maisha Mama. And I decided that come 2022, I am going to fight for a position in leadership so that I can get a mandate to be able to be a voice to the women who are really suffering and who have been suffering for a long time. And they've been so messed up with the politician. Every electioneering time, we find that most of the women are met by the politician, misused by the politician, leaving their homes because they not have any other thing to do. They leave their homes so much early in the morning, maybe going to campaign for politicians, and at the end of the day, they do not even leave the food for their children. They don't leave anything in their houses. They just maybe just relying on these politicians. They go out for morning, they come back empty-handed in the afternoon, in the evening, and the children have not eaten anything. So I decided that I think there is something that needs to be done so that these women who are voiceless can get somebody to represent them, and they can maybe air house the concerns of women, because really women in the Mashinani are suffering a lot. They are being misused, and they need a voice. So I decided that I'm going to be a voice to these women, whether the environment will allow me or not. And I decided, which I was doing, so that I come down to the Mashinani and see how these women can really be helped, can really get a voice, so that they can the voice can speak for them as we take the platform. So the platform that I've decided to use is the MCA, because of course I am a supporter of the bottom-up economic approach. So I am fine with the UDA ticket, and I feel that I am in the right place, I am in the right position, and I will continue supporting the women from the Mashinani level and try to empower them to come up, and maybe at the end of eventually they might get supported, and they might have a voice, they can be heard, and eventually they are able maybe to give provide for their respective families. That is the reason why I decided that I'm going to stand up for this cause, and maybe I'll be able to be a better voice for these women.
Thank you, Gladys. It's quite interesting to hear how passionate you are about it, and just to hear how you want to be a voice for other women. And maybe I'll just ask Wilkista. So here in Kenya, what is the scenario like for women leaders, and what are some of the things women face, especially in the local space, that they need to get past to be viable when it comes to political spaces?
Kindly come again.
Sorry?
Well, my network is bad.
Understand it.
Kindly come again. I think my network is not.
Okay, let me repeat the question. I'm addressing this to Wilkista. So in Kenya, we just want to maybe get a picture of what the scenario is for women leaders, and what are the things that women face in the local space that they need to get past to be viable when it comes to political spaces.
How I see the scenario in Kenya right now for women is we're looking at women in all the spaces that exist.
I can't seem to get you, Kista. Seems like maybe the connection or something. Could be the connection. Yeah, as will Kista sorts that. Maybe I'll just ask Gladys, is this your first time, Vine?
Yeah, it's my first time.
And what has been the experience so far?
So far, so good. There are some very many challenges on the ground facing on this. Women are not, they're not so much supported and accepted in society as they can lead. So when I came out and I decided that I'm going to fight for the MCA position, starting from down and then coming up maybe to other positions later on in future, then you find some men are just demoralizing my efforts. That how can a woman lead in a society that is full of men? Since we started, there has been a woman leading us. Imagine at the level of an MCA, you've never seen a woman fight, you've never seen a woman leading. Some are supportive, some are not. Majority of them have now realized that they've come out and said, surely, I think women should be supported for their first time. So
yeah.
The challenges are 50-50. Some are very negative, some are very positive. But currently, at the stage where we are now, it's like I'm getting the support, because I also decided that my leadership approach as a candidate, I said I will use a slogan that most of the politicians normally say, if you elect me, I'll be able to fulfill A, B, C, D. And when they get elected now, and most of them are men, they know how to promise, but fulfilling is a very big problem. So I decided to take advantage of that. But now, because they say, when you elect me, I'll be able to do A, B, C, D, or I'll be able to accomplish A, B, C, D. So I decided that I decided to change the approach. that
Yeah. That's really interesting.
have done for you people in the process of asking for campaigning and asking for the vote. I will have accomplished 1, 2, 3 things, and you will give me the vote, or you will entrust me with the vote. So indeed, I have done a lot, and that is what has changed people and saying, really, this woman is a real leader, and therefore I think we should trust her with the vote. So mine is the approach is I'm really empowering the women, the mama, boga, those who are selling chairs, tents, I have provided for them. Those who are selling cuckoos, I provided for them. Small enterprises, I've really empowered them, and that is why I'm scaling popularity. That's because of my own way of approaching into leadership. So the challenges when I started was women, but as I going step by step, then the challenges right now are not very much on the negative, but on the positive side.
Okay. That's quite interesting to hear your perspective on what it has been like on the ground, and most of the of the person who is vying. And it's really important to have new voices in this space as well. So for you to tell me that it's your first time vying, it's really good, because this means you're really introducing fresh ideas that are applicable, to the 21st century. So maybe I'll just ask, so what do you perceive will be your role as an MCA, and how will you carry out that role once in office?
Since I've started on a level platform, and already I'm carrying all the responsibility of an MCA on the ground, because seeing the docket of more than that, so many responsibilities, and also dealing with the people on the nationality, indeed the people, the local people. So right away is exactly what I will upload and now to continue with in the office when I get an MCA, like making sure that if I will have the salary, I know that I will not be selling, as I have been told that some of the machinery people have never gotten any bursary. They have never been empowered like right now. Their problems are run to I will carry on because I'm doing. I will carry this to my new office, and I will continue and empowering the data border, and also making sure that women are sensitized to take the responsibilities of leadership, because in that also we have small the upcoming leaders, and we start getting to understand leadership responsibilities even from the CPOs, the group organizations. Yeah. You find that we have the chair ladies, we have the secretaries, we have the treasurers. So they start from there learning leadership. So I think in my office, I will be empowering such programs so that women will now understand about role of leadership. It's not only for leadership. We have got so many spaces of leadership for women at different departments, different maybe political arena, maybe even in the business arena, maybe in the employment arena, and so forth, so on like that. So I think it will not be hard for me to implement exactly what I'm doing now in my new office when I I'm given the chance.
Okay. Okay. I see, Wilkista, you're back. So maybe I'll just go back to that question of what the scenario is like for women leaders in Kenya.
Yeah. I'm really sorry. I think Safaricom is conspiring against me being on this live feed. As I was saying, the political scenario, rather how it looks in the country for women, is the political space is still, largely patriarchal. And when I say largely patriarchal, we're talking about who sits at the helm in terms of leadership. Even when we look at percentages of women in the National Assembly, in Senate, in the county assemblies, the number increases as you go down. It doesn't increase as you go up. So I think the space is still largely patriarchal. And I was speaking about political parties in particular, because political parties are the vehicles to power. And right now, what we see that there are very few women who are party leaders of political parties, because we're looking at the whole negotiated democracy, the brokered deals that are going on right now within the political space, the signing of these memorandas and pre-election pacts. In terms of women party leaders who we are seeing in those spaces, particularly signing into those agreements, there are very few women and very few notable women that you can see in that space. And I think it also speaks to how we set political agenda in the country, because the political agenda, as we have seen historically and even presently, is set by the men. And most of what is happening is that women are plugging into spaces that have already been created by men. And if you ask me, that's partly where we need to start changing the narrative, because if we have women creating spaces that are friendly for women, in as much as we have to interact within the democracy with all subsets of the society. By this, I mean, the young people, women and men. So we have to make sure that we are also starting to set agenda as women, and even now women leaders in politics. I think the other strengths of women that have been used really badly is what Gladys was speaking to earlier, because she says there are women who, leave their children at home because either they're mobilizing for some politician on ground, because they know they're going to get maybe 100 bob, 500, 1,000 shillings at the end of the day because they're doing that. And that speaks to the strength of women, mashinani, or women at the grassroots, because you find that women at the grassroots are the ones who really mobilize numbers for the politicians to come and speak to these people. So I think the politicians are taking advantage of that. That women are great mobilizers on ground, and probably not even putting these women, or rather including these women in the mainstream structures of leadership within the political party. I think the other thing that women are really strong in is branding and publicity of these political parties. If you see the vitenges that are being shown right now, the color, the pomp and all that, it is women. Someone like Mama Chungwa, I think everyone in the country knows who Mama Chungwa is because of how well she has carried the brand of that political party and continues to do so even to this day. So I think women have a lot of strength, a lot of potential. However, because the spaces are largely patriarchal and they have men at the top, it's coming, really difficult to include women in the mainstream structure of leadership within this, political structure.
Yeah. Yeah, thanks, Wilkista. And it's quite interesting that you've mentioned that how the society is mainly patriarchal. And I was just thinking about also what Gladys has said about maybe her being on the campaign trail, maybe, and her male counterparts would try to dim her down. So what do you think is an alternative for women to fight propaganda in politics when you are inclined to play dirty?
I've learned from women leaders when I hear them speak. I don't know if they speak what they practice. They practice what they speak, but they have talked about, you don't have to play dirty to be in politics. And the other thing that's also really a big deal when it comes to propaganda is security of these women. Because once there's propaganda around a certain issue, it means that as a woman aspirant, you're not safe. Because when there's propaganda that person so and so has decamped to this party, and then they go on ground, it means that the supporters that were there with that person are hostile. So if that is a woman in that particular position, you're never really sure what will happen to you when you hit the ground. And even looking at now how they relate with the male counterparts on ground. And I don't know if Gladys has experienced that, but it's very, very sad to see how women are being treated in spaces. And because Run for Office works with young women aspirants, we've had, can you still hear me? Because I see you're frozen. Yes. All right. So we've had young women talking about how, they were on a campaign trail, and there were also other members of the party who were probably running for the same seat. And, they're thrown off the dais to not sit there and be a part of that. And you imagine at this point, probably you're in a dress and you never really know if your clothes are going to get torn or things like that. So I think propaganda is something that's, when it's negative, it actually, really hampers the woman's credibility, because a woman is already fighting against the societal perception of women leadership. So can a woman really lead? So fighting that against also now having more in terms of propaganda becomes very hard for this woman to battle. However, I have also been taught that there's negative and positive propaganda, that a woman aspirant or a woman candidate can use propaganda to their advantage if it is positive. The only time it becomes not so good for the woman is when it's negative. And I think when we are talking about playing dirty, playing dirty really, I don't know if we could break down what play dirty means, then probably we'd understand whether, propaganda is also playing dirty. Because for me, when I break down playing dirty, it means probably having negative propaganda. But having positive propaganda isn't really playing dirty. You're just playing by the book, playing by the rules, but still beating those people at their own game. So I think the space to use positive propaganda to your advantage from the negative propaganda that can really fuel violence, not a female aspirant, but generally for the society, because we've come from a dark place in terms of what elections have looked like for us in the past.
Thanks, Wilkista, for that. Do we have George here? Do we have George in the... It seems like George broke off. But yeah, that's interesting. Maybe I'll just ask Gladys if maybe you've experienced such a kind of, you maybe your opponents propagating propaganda, against you, or what has been your experience in that light? And sometimes in some cases, it could be even like women against women, because sometimes you might see in cases that maybe a woman has said that a woman who is not married is not fit to lead or take up a leadership position, or a woman who maybe doesn't have children, or just depending on the setting and the certain communities. So Gladys, have you experienced this?
Okay, thank you. Indeed, I've experienced that kind of propaganda for my opponent, and from the other side. Like, for example, someone is saying, you see that lady does not even live in a house. She normally leaves at midnight and come back in the morning. So personally, I do not understand exactly what that, how that can be of any candidate in politics, because someone is saying knowing very well that I stay in my house. But because I'm just a woman, I don't know how he wants, particularly the men, associating me with not sleeping in my house and going out at the middle of the night and coming back in the morning. So to me, that one is a very petty propaganda that nobody should buy and nobody should even take a concern about, because those are such very petty. Just because I'm rising higher and higher, someone is looking for something that is very terrible and implicating that maybe this lady is not good or this lady is not able to do like
Gladys, can you hear me? Seems like I'm losing you.
and again, this is my
Seems like I'm losing you, Gladys. I think I lost her. Yeah, so well, it's quite interesting to hear her experience also. And Wilkista.
be partners with each other, and we need to protect each other as women. But you find that the women also, there is that attitude of not supporting each other, not loving each other, not protecting each other, or protect the nakedness that some men might be trying to put it on the side of women so that to discourage them or demoralize them from maybe focusing ahead and going for the leadership which they have decided. So I think as women, we need to encourage women-friendly culture as women, not waiting for men to create a friendly culture for us, but we need as women to fight for that friendly culture for us as women. There is a need to create a culture that supports us women. If we are waiting for the same men to create for us a friendly culture, then I think we are missing the point. And how we are going to do it is now using the platform of maybe I'm elected to lead in the county level. Another woman is elected to lead the constituency level. Another one is at the Senate level. Another one at the women representatives, and so forth and so on, like that, like cabinet. They need to come together, these leaders, and decide on how to create their own environment and how they can make it friendly for them, so that when men are fighting against our coming into leadership, then we have already developed something to protect us, so that we may not get harmed but by such unnecessary propaganda. I think that is the way to go as women. So what I would like to encourage so much is women coming together. No, women are strong in politics. They are strong in everything that they decided to do. But the only problem we have as women is that we do not have the support for each other. If today we decide that we are going to come out as women and we are going to get one of our own becoming the president, because of our number, we are going to get it. But we are missing because of we are not supportive of each other. So I think going forward, we need to come up with a friendly culture for us women, so that when we decide we are going to do this, the environment and the culture is also supporting us to move forward.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Gladys. I see George has just joined us also, and I'm going to direct this question at you, George, but you can also introduce yourself as you answer this question. So we know in the campaign trail and in when you're running, that money is a factor necessary on the campaign trail. So when it comes to getting those necessary funds that that are required, what should women do to gain such support, and what are the alternatives available?
Thank you very much. Sorry, guys, for joining late. I was actually on transit to Lamu. I've just arrived. My name is George Collins Award. I work for Transform Empowerment for Action Initiative. Now, first and foremost, I want to say this. No one will elect you because you are a woman. I think that is one of the things that you need to start sorting out, apart from the position of the women rep. But in serious competitive politics, you shall not be elected because you're a woman. I know the society is a bit unkind to women, and that is why when it comes to resource mobilization, you will realize that women don't have quite a lot of resources compared to men. But again, when you look at the conversation around politics, is that one cannot just wake up today and think that they're going to win an election. And it calls for creative ways of being more innovative in terms of resource mobilization. For instance, any serious person who wants to run a campaign must have a very, very comprehensive campaign team. You must take advantage of the available resources. And these resources could be on expertise, these resources could be on networking, and these resources could also be even in providing security. Because the current trend in Kenya is that anyone who will plan well
George,
that person is likely to process resources. So yes, hello,
no, go ahead,
can you hear me? Yes.
Yeah.
So what I would want to say, which is very important, because personally as team, we are running a women academy. And one of the things we've been doing is to find how to network the women and also work very closely with male champions, people who believe in women agenda. So I think those are some of the areas that if anyone looks into critically, then that person can win an election. Thank you.
Thank you so much, George. I'd also like to hear what Wilkista has to say about the film. Just in terms of getting those necessary resources, how can women gain such support, and what are the alternatives?
I think I want to agree with George that you know, it's much harder for women to raise the required resources, and it's majorly because we still haven't gotten to the point where we believe that women should lead. And it starts from the smallest unit in the society. So it starts from at home, how you perceive your aunt and all that, because that is the smallest unit of organizing, and that is where the patriarchal beliefs start. So in terms of resource mobilization, it is true that people are willing to invest in men when it comes to politics, but not in women. Because even when you look at how, male counterparts in the political space, especially the young men, relate with their mentors or, godfathers in the political space, it's very easy for their godfather to say, I'm pumping this into your election, and you go forth and then run the election. But when you look at the same now with a young woman who's trying to run a successful campaign, and for sure she's doing her groundwork, she's in the space, and she's not throwing herself in merely because she's a woman. She's throwing herself in the race because she believes she has the leadership ability to either take the constituency or ward or county forward in terms of leadership. So that is the first place that we need to battling the demon on the societal perception of young women and women in general in terms of their leadership ability. Because if we trust the leadership ability, then it significantly reduces the hurdle or the stress of resource mobilization. That said, for us at Run for Office, what we've done to ensure that women are seen as credible and worthy counterparts when it comes to the political race is we profile the women so that it does not become a question of, oh, you're running because you think you're beautiful, or you're running because, just for the mere purpose of being seen. So what people are seeing more and more from the young women that you're working with is that these are worthy contenders. So the conversation shifts from, you're in this because you have a pretty face, unique a slay queen, to wow, these are the accolades that this woman has. So it means that she has a leadership ability. So for this woman, having, her profile up there and out in terms of her leadership significantly reduces the barrier for her in terms of reaching out to people. It is still not easy for them to reach out and do proper resource mobilization as the male counterparts would do. But the more people see you as a credible candidate, the more trusting and willing they are to put into your campaign. And I know Gladys would agree that even for her and other women who are running around her, that there are women that totally, society will be like, I don't think this woman is the right fit for this job. However, there are women that the society is able to tell that I really see your value as a woman. Rather, I really see your value as a leader before I see you as a woman. And they look at, what you've achieved outside of the political space. Have you been able to organize somewhere? Have you led somewhere before showing up in the political arena? Have you even led the community in different initiatives? For someone like Gladys, who has been, working with the Ports Authority, if I heard you right, Gladys, it gives her, a strong argument, a strong case when she presents herself as a leader and as a candidate. So resource mobilization is not just, the lack of money itself, because when you talk about resource in the political, rather in the campaign trail, it's a lot of things in as much as it is money. The biggest thing that hampers this for women is the perception that people have of women. If we can kill the perception that people have of women as not being worthy in terms of leadership, then we will kill the hurdle, or rather we will jump over the hurdle when it comes to resource mobilization. Still, resource mobilization is not easy either way, even for the male counterparts who are running. Of course, they have things that would come to them more easily, but they still also struggle with resource mobilization. It is just easier for them because probably they know another man somewhere who has a fleet of 5 Prados and can say, okay, you can have my Prados today and go with them. When you look at the woman in your social network, how many other women can you reach out to that can easily say, I'm going to give you my cars for the campaigns? You understand? So it's also about the woman and the women around her. Because if they're not empowered enough, they cannot say, today Gladys is going on ground, so I'm going to give you some money, or not even money. I'm going to brand your car, or I'm going to do your posters or your banners, or make sure that your team is well taken care of. So I think we also need to look at the social capital when you talk about resource mobilization. It is different for men and women, and historically for women, because we know the barriers that have been on the road for women. So I think for me, I would say strongly that changing the perception on women leadership, changing how we look at women, because women are worthy contenders over and above the fact that we are women, we still bring value, and women bring both the intrinsic and instrumental value. And when I say intrinsic, there are some values that as women, the truth is that we are born with them. I know men don't like to hear that, but the truth is that there are values of leadership that we are born with. And the instrumental values that we learn in our environment, in our experience, and all that we pick around us as to build ourselves in terms of career or in terms of personal development.
Wow, it's quite interesting to hear that there are innate things that a woman has that enables them to be a good leader. Quite interesting. Gladys, maybe. So, what would you say, Gladys, are pressing challenges in your ward, and how can you? Did you get my question, Gladys?
No, I didn't.
Oh,
I
my
did
question.
not.
Yeah, my question was, what do you think are the pressing challenges in your ward, and how can you resolve them?
Oh, sorry. Imagine I'm not. I think my network is very unstable. Please
No.
come again last time. Let me see that.
Yeah, sure. So the question was, what do you think are the pressing challenges in your ward, and how can you resolve those challenges?
Okay. The challenges are very numerous. I cannot even be able to list them, starting from my people, my work people are very, very poor. They cannot they can't meet their daily needs, the basic needs like food, like clothing, even like water is a big challenge in my ward. We don't have clean water. There is also a challenge to be very badly affected. Find people living in the Mashinani, the interior part of the Nyali, outside of Kisumundogo, the Mnazi Moja, the Shauriako, and Lukopat, and villages. In fact, when it's raining, it's very terrible because even the water flow up to the houses. So they are requesting me that if I can help them maybe to solve the challenge of the drainage. And even though they know very well that my sector may not be able to handle so much such big challenges because that one is maybe assigned to the office of the governor but people are really coming to me and asking me that if God will give you this opportunity, then make sure this drainage is worked on, the poor drainage is worked on. Some are coming to me, bringing me to repeat the balances they have in the school fees. You know, some are coming to me, hospital bills. Some are coming to me that today, I don't have food to feed to my children, and such so many other challenges. So at times, I may be able to solve those small problems. And women are also saying that during the COVID pandemic, when I had a business, I was running a small business, I could be maybe able to feed my children food, but now my business is down. I have nothing. Can you please resuscitate the business for me? So because she's a woman, I also know, I understand the challenges of a woman. So most of the time, I make sure that if it's a small business, that I can afford to resuscitate, I do it for my fellow women. And even men are also coming to me with such many other challenges. So I think the challenges are numerous, but I think by the grace of God, and if I get the opportunity to be in the county office or the office of the MCA, I'll be able to deal with those any small challenges. I will make sure at least my people have been elevated to some extent to come out from that poverty, to at least be able to get a percentage to put food on the table for their family. That is the most affected part. Is when the children are not able to eat and we have people in the leadership. You know, at times I just decide that I just go to my pocket, I help where necessary to make sure my people, at least if they have to for their children. So the challenges are so many. And I think going forward, and as leaders, and as a woman who really understands the challenges that are facing different families, I think I'll be able to sort at least not 100%, not maybe 50%, but at least 20%. I'll be able to make sure that my people are really, at least, gotten a better welfare.
Thank you, Gladys. George, I hope you're in a position to answer this. So my question is, what do you make of Peru? Do you think we are headed towards this in terms of representation?
Well, one thing that we cannot do is probably to discourage women not to contest for the elective positions. The Constitution has already provided for a platform. And like I already said earlier, is that the society is unfortunately unkind for women. But what I want to say, we also have women who have done very well, even out of Kenya, even in Africa and beyond. The question which we need to ask ourselves is whether the women are ready to take on leadership without fear or intimidation. Besides that, there is the aspect of campaign, there is the aspect of branding, there is the aspect of networking, and there is the aspect of the organizing question. What are you selling? And I want to say this to those who are contesting who are here. Hakuna kitu by the grace of God in politics. Get out there and prepare yourself so that you can push an agenda. There is no lamentation, there is no sympathizing with yourself, there is no empathy. No, this is a field that does not recognize anyone who wants to take advantage of his sexual orientation so that you can win an election. Yeah. The other thing which is more critical, and I want to put this very clearly, is what we call self-actualization. When we talk about self-actualization, have you, beyond any reasonable doubt, convinced yourself that indeed you are fit to vie for an election? Or friends are telling you ground iko sawa? And by the way, let nobody tell you that you look so nice and that will make you win. There is nothing like that. What are you selling to the populace? How organized are you? Do you know even your voters, for instance? How many professionals are in your ward? How many retirees are there? How many nurses are there? What time do they sleep and eat? Can you do a critical analysis of these things that I'm talking about? And then what is your brand? What are you selling out there? It's not a question of wewe ni mtoto wa bishop. It will never work for you. Even Bishop Wanjiru has lost and he has so many followers in church. So I want to put this categorically, that when it comes to politics, it is about speaking to the minds, speaking to the hearts of citizens, are not imparting knowledge. Lazima ukuu unaweza danganya. Let me put it that way for a better understanding. Speak to our emotions so that we can feel you. Otherwise, I want to wish all the women of this nation well. And I do believe that if we network and collaborate well, then we can also help, because we've been working with the women very closely, and there are those who we actually enrolling also to engage in this business. But there is no sympathy. And for those who are Christians who are here, there is a book called Lamentation. Towards the end, there is hope. And that hope is the Constitution of Kenya 2010, which is already defining a path for you. So how you organize yourself and network critically will make you move to the next level. About the society, to me, that is not a big deal. The deal is, what are you selling so that we can buy? And remember, if you can get even 200 votes, it means if you had a product, then you can sell to 200 people and they will buy. So let's get out there. Let's not look at us as women, but let's look at us as responsible leadership, responsible citizens who can make a difference in this country. Thank you.
Thank you, George. Interesting sentiments there. I'm just going to read some of the comments also that we're streaming in. There's a question also for Wilkista. Someone is asking, what kind of support does a run for office offer young people? Let me just read all of them. Yeah, Otieno Obiero says women deserve more in our governance systems. Prince Tyra says women should be at the forefront in fighting for this political space. Julio Carlos says Gladys is always on top. She just needs to be given a chance to transform Mkomani. Remy Ruto says good work, Siasa place. So maybe Wilkista, you could just answer this question from Atoned Lamp. Yeah, and it says, what kind of support does Run for Office offer young people?
I don't want to mispronounce the name, so I will not mention the name. I don't know if it's a he or a she. But I had briefly touched on what what Run for Office offers young people. And one is, I said, we help to reduce the barriers that exist for young people in their diversity to run for office, to win and lead. So that means that there are policy and legislative barriers that, bar young people from occupying public offices. And by public offices, they are both elective and appointive. There are also barriers in terms of the person themselves. So as George said, does the person believe that they have the ability to lead? So it means that you have to approach it from that perspective of helping the person themselves, get to the point where they have the stability to know that, this is my focus for sure. And it's a whole, it's a lot to do with personal development and leadership. So that exists as well. And then branding and publicity for us is also very important, because your agenda, how you look, how you communicate your agenda determines a lot on how you're perceived. And if you find yourself in the position where you're not communicating an agenda, it means that your branding and publicity is not working for you. So we also help to do that for young people. And in terms of policy, last year, when the electoral management body was appointing the commissioners, and there was a process where we didn't have youth within the commission. And I'm not saying youth because of having young people in there for the mere fact of having them, but we are well aware that young people right now are very qualified for these positions, and they have requisite experience to support their being in these spaces. So we did petition the body that was, I keep forgetting the name, the selection panel that was, getting the good, correct, rather right candidates for these positions, to include young people. And in as much as we did not have young people included in as the commissioners, of course, there was set up a youth coordinating committee for IBC, and some of us serve in that space to help, bridge the gap between the electoral management body and the young people. And I think, I know George Collins has run very successful programs, and he has, worked with women and helped been instrumental in the election of some women within Kisumu County, if I'm not wrong. I think I want to tell you that the grace of God exists, George. Over and above the fact that you have the willpower to push yourself, get on ground and all that, grace of God exists. We are surviving on grace right now. That's why we are all breathing. Well, that was just by the way, but that is what I can say towards, what Young Run for Office does. And just in case they want to reach out, our social medias handles are open. Run for Office KE on Twitter, on Instagram, and also on Facebook. There's also a phone number there. You can just leave a message on WhatsApp and we'll respond.
Okay, thanks, Kista. I know we are pressed for time. I don't know how many more minutes we have. The team has been trying to tell me. So maybe I'll just allow for a parting shot from Gladys, and then George, and then we can finish.
Okay, mine is to appreciate the panel, because we had a lot, and there are so many things that are important from you, the experience, the ideas, and so many things like that. I've also heard from George that he has categorically said that there is no sympathy for women. So we appreciate that part, but we are going to walk away. And I think by the grace of God, we are going to become what we want to become. We are winners as women, and we are going to go for what we want. So I really appreciate my sister Thank you very much. Let's just keep on, and I also pray that you pray for me to get the support and to get that grace of God so that I'll be able to get that position. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Gladys. We're under 1 minute, so George, maybe briefly, very briefly. Okay, Wilkista. See, George is not there.
All right. So it's important to have leadership of women, both young women and older women in political spaces, because there's intrinsic and instrumental value, as I said. So what I'd like to urge those of us listening to this particular, live feed is support a woman who you feel is credible to run and win the election. It's your support that will count. It is mobilizing voters. It is, helping with merchandise. It is helping them with communication. Just support us, in the capacity that you're able to. I see it's 30 seconds to the stop of this, so thank you.
Yeah, okay. Thanks, guys, for joining. Let's continue having this conversation, and see you guys on the next conversation that we'll have.
Bye.
Bye, guys.